Hey guys, welcome to the Source Gaming Discussion. I am your host, EpicMartin7, and today I am joined by Spazzy D.
Hey guys.
And today we're going to talk about the recent news that Nintendo is making a Super Nintendo Classic Edition. So, for this news, I'm going to ask you straight away, Spazzy, were you surprised by this?
No, we did some videos on it earlier. It's been a rumor that's been going around. I think that it came out a little earlier than we thought. But there were actually some rumors going around just like last week that it would be happening soon. So if you had your ear to the ground and you were paying attention, you could see that something like this would happen. And overall, I thought it kind of made too much sense for it not to happen.
Right. The NES Classic was discontinued, and we were kind of skeptical as to why. The whole NES Classic fiasco was kind of questionable in some retrospects, but this kind of led up to like the final answer. Like they were making a sequel to the NES Classic in a sense, which was one based on the Super Nintendo or Super Famicom, based on your region. So it was kind of nice seeing that confirmation. I personally thought it was actually going to be made around the same time frame as the original NES Classic Edition, which was in July, but it's still not far off. And this being well, I guess we can get into when it's being released, near the end of the month in September, which is, you would think it would be a holiday 2017 item, but...
I think that they will hopefully have more units by then. This is probably just going to be the first push just for, collectors and whoever, because they said they would have more stock. Hopefully that's true.
Yes.
For collectors and people like that. And by collectors, I mean, scalpers. This is just going to be all the
Fortunately.
But, it makes sense. I would have, if I had to guess before, I would have thought that it would have followed almost the exact same pattern as the NES Classic. But, I'm fine with it the way it is, so.
Yeah, we already seen eBay listings appear for the thing, so, it's... I think one is...
Someone's really confident that they're going to get that first order.
Yeah, there's like one up to $5,000, I think. It's ridiculous.
That's not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening. It's just always fun to see these scalpers attempt, because it's like, okay, you might have succeeded the first time, but there's no way you're going to succeed the second time. It's just... It's funny.
Hey man, shoot for the stars. If you're gonna be a douchebag scalper, you might as well do it big.
Yeah, you might as well go big or go home. Might as well try.
Yeah.
They might be going in the sunset with their tails between their legs, but it doesn't mean they can't try. So.
Oh man, yeah, I'm super excited to get my hands on this and own Super Metroid in like the fifth way that I own it at this point. So
yeah, I have to agree. Obviously re-releasing classic games is nothing new for Nintendo, but housing it in basically a Linux based shell and an ARM processor, that's something new that we really haven't seen. But
it's a tiny little nostalgia box. It's awesome. And I had this conversation earlier with some of the folks on our Discord where I'm like, I literally own every one of these games except for Star Fox and the Kirby Dream Course. Those are literally the only two games and I'm not talking about owning them on Virtual Console, although I own a ton of these on Virtual Consoles as well. I literally have the cartridges. Like, I go into my closet and grab them. I'm like, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
I get all of these games in a tiny little box that looks like a Super Nintendo, and it's awesome, and I can take it around. I can bring it to work, like we did at my job with the actual NES Classic.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. It's a kitsch, cool little device. At the end of the day, it's not really going to do a whole lot more than, a Raspberry Pi could do at around the same price. You can make a RetroPie for about $80 with a decent case, and it can play all sorts of games.
Yeah.
But once again, that's not the point. It's a super cool plug-and-play tiny console. I dig it.
Here's the thing with the Raspberry. If you're a person who's just like, why would I buy a SNES Classic Edition when I could build a Raspberry Pi? Technically speaking, that's not really the market Nintendo's aiming for. they're aiming for the casual demographic, the people who have had nostalgia with with this system but haven't really gotten into Nintendo games as it is. I mean, the NES Classic Edition kind of proves that, because a lot of people who haven't played, you know, Nintendo games or video games in general was like, holy crap, I need this.
Yeah, they're like, oh man, you know what? I love Bubble Bobble. I literally had actually 2 separate people get really excited for the NES Classic because of Bubble Bobble, which is something that a lot of a lot of people that I guess would define themselves more as core gamers or even core Nintendo fans wouldn't even think about that. But I mean, there's a lot of nostalgia to it, and I actually think that the games in the NES Classic are fantastic. I'm a little more old school with my retro games.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's as much filler in there as some people will say. But overall, I'll say that the games in the Super Nintendo Classic, much higher replayability, and there's really not like a single dud in them. They're all great games. Like it's a really, really solid collection. What are your thoughts on that? I
think the games that are within the SNES Classic Edition are kind of play the same role that was in the NES, but they chose certain games that would cater to certain people who like certain genres. They were careful in their selection. I mean, you got the RPG games like Final Fantasy III and Secret of Mana. People love them. You got the original launch titles, F-Zero and Super Mario World. You got the 3D polygon era of the SNES, Star Fox, Yoshi's Island, and I guess we can also mention Star Fox 2, which is insane. I mean, I specifically called that out as something that I was sure wasn't going to be on this in the other video that I did. And my reasoning behind that was, why would Nintendo waste an opportunity? Because this is guaranteed to sell out almost no matter what. Exactly. It is. You know, I'm like, so it doesn't need that extra something to sell it. Everyone's going to buy it. So I'm like, why would they do that when they could, you know, sell it on the Switch or something and make it like selling like, oh man, you can get Star Fox 2, that's really cool, or sell it in, you know, any sort of way. But I guess they really wanted to push this product, and it's very cool that we will finally get to play that game. So right, and considering that this build is, according to Dylan Cuthbert, most likely the final build compared to the one that's leaked online, that's apparently like the final beta. Wasn't there supposed to be a multiplayer in Star Fox Zero 2? That was an alpha demo apparently, but we don't know if that was scrapped or not. So we could see if it's in the final full release. But I'm really excited to see like how it's, you know, progressed and what the final game actually looks like. Which I'm pretty sure will look close to what the leaked ROM is, but I think that there's going to be some minor tweaks to it, and it's going to be interesting to see how it is. Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to keep your eye out for. It's one of the selling points here. Definitely. But I mean, even without it, I mean, you've got some great multiplayer games. You got Contra 3, which is, in my opinion, kind of the definitive Contra, which is awesome as far as multiplayer. You have F-Zero. Secret of Mana actually is a 3-player game. I don't know if there's going to be maybe an extra port when you flip up the front of the system for a third controller. I honestly don't know how they're going to handle that. But I mean, it's the only multi-tap game on there, but it's kind of weird. I would have loved, by the way, to have seen Super Bomberman, one of the Super Bomberman games on here, but you can't always, you know, get what you want. Mario Kart obviously is a good, and Street Fighter, you know, you definitely have your multiplayer fix in there. Oh, and Kirby Superstar too. Multiplayer in that. True. I mean, the whole thing with Nintendo is that they focus on mainly local multiplayer, and the games they've selected for this, I think it's gonna help get people together and really sell the product as like, hey, I can buy this for my kid, but I can also play with my kid. I think this is actually a very good system for JRPGs. You have, in my opinion, maybe 4 of the best Japanese RPGs, or 4 of my favorite at least. You have Super Mario RPG, you have Earthbound, which you know, has been available in a couple formats now, but it's still kind of a big deal because it was unavailable for so long. Final Fantasy 3, not 6, 3, even though it's 6, because they're not going to retranslate a ROM. Although they did do some slight changes. It wouldn't have
been out of the question. But it seems like unnecessary to do that. Plus, you know what? Like I said, it's a nostalgia box for people that had a Super Nintendo that know it is Final Fantasy III. You know, why would you change it from being Final Fantasy III?
Right, that's the most iconic Final Fantasy on the Super Nintendo.
Oh, yeah, no, without a doubt. Secret of Mana, which is just a personal favorite of mine. I love the Mana series, especially the early games in that series. Everything up to the PS1 game, Legacy of Mana. After that, not as much, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people are kind of maybe questioning themselves because people are... I think they were expecting Chrono Trigger to show up in some form, but...
don't we all own Chrono Trigger 12 times already?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's what I heard from a lot of people who are...
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that will... And honestly, Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite games of all time. And I'm more surprised that the Japanese version of this console doesn't have a Dragon's Quest game.
Yeah, that's weird.
Than I am about lack of Chrono Trigger. I think part of the lack of Chrono Trigger is that the licensing fees... I have no knowledge of this. I just have the feeling that Square Enix licensing fees probably add up after a while.
Yeah.
And they have resold Chrono Trigger so much at a premium that they probably hold that game in higher esteem than they do, just Final Fantasy III is a great game. It might be my favorite Final Fantasy. It's definitely in the top 4 or 5. But it's not a game that's held to the same esteem, and it's not a game because it's just another numbered Final Fantasy. And Secret of Mana also is not it's not seen the same way Chrono Trigger is. They like to make money off of reselling Chrono Trigger, so I can see how that would have been an issue. I mean, Chrono Trigger would have been a fantastic game to get. But when you look at it genre-wise, I think there's actually kind of some bigger omissions, as much as I love Chrono Trigger. Because, okay, when you look at the NES Classic, I think that was really well balanced with, you had sports games like Tecmo Bowl. You had, classic arcade games like Pac-Man. You had Dr. Mario for puzzle games. You just a great mix of genres.
Right, yeah, it was very, very, anyone could play the NES Classic Edition and pick something from it they liked. Right,
and when I look at this, I feel like already it's a little JRPG heavy. Like I said, you have those 4. You have Earthbound, Super Mario RPG, Final Fantasy III, and Secret of Mana. But you don't have some other genres that were pretty big in that era. First of all, there's no real sports games, although if you look at the Japanese version, they do have some random soccer game, and I guess you could technically count Punch-Out if you wanted to as a sports game. There's no puzzle games. Although, once again, if you look at the Japanese one, they have Panel de Pon, which I guess we didn't get because it was localized as Tetris Attack, and that would have involved dealing with a Tetris company.
Yeah, which are very protective of that license.
Yeah, and they were actually very unhappy with Nintendo using it for a puzzle game that was completely unrelated to Tetris. So that wasn't going to happen. So you don't have any puzzle games. You don't have really much in the way of sports games, although the Genesis / Mega Drive was known more for sports, but still. And
I noticed a lack of shmups on there.
Yeah, there's no shoot 'em ups. There's no Darius Twins. There's no R-Type, Gradius 3, all of those. And Gradius 3, I feel like if Konami had more, because Konami right now has Contra 3 and Castlevania, and both awesome games. Love those games. I love Super Castlevania 4, one of my favorites. The Japanese version, by the way, does not have Super Castlevania. It does have Legend of the Mystical Ninja, though, from Konami, which kind of sucks because I would have loved that on the American version, because that's a great co-op title. It would have been awesome for that purpose. But besides Legend of the Mystical Ninja on both and Castlevania on both, also, I think Super Bomberman would have been kind of cool because that's the game that people played a lot multiplayer-wise on the Super Nintendo. But I think Gradius 3 probably as a shoot-'em-up would have been a wise choice. But, with only 20 games, don't get me wrong, once again, the 20 games that we have are very solid picks.
Yes.
But another genre which was everywhere in the 90s, it was everything were beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
That was like co-op fun, man. And there's not one beat 'em up. And I think part of the problem is if we were doing like a Mega Drive or Genesis Classic, which I know they have the ones that already have games on them, but they have like your mini Genesis, but it's not the same quality as this. If Sega actually wanted to make the hardware themselves and come out with something like this, I'd be happy to pay $80 for a mini Genesis. As opposed to the ones.
Or if Sega licensed it to Nintendo, that would have been.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless of that, I was gonna say because they have Golden Axe and Streets of Rage and things like that. Nintendo doesn't really never had a first party, beat 'em up, so I could see that. And then the other big problem is kind of some of the biggest beat 'em ups on the system were licensed games. I think Turtles in Time is going to be on most people's like top 20 Super Nintendo lists.
Yeah, a lot of people like that game, and
it is an awesome game.
I'm gonna admit I've never played that game, but I really,
dude, you should play it.
I know.
What are your have you played any beat 'em ups on the Super Nintendo?
Dude, you gotta understand something. I am of a different demographic. I haven't seriously no.
You are of a different age.
Yes,
I get it.
Yes, here's the thing. I didn't grow up with the Super Nintendo, but I did go back in the Virtual Console and play some of its games. I do have a Super Famicom right next to me. I'm pressing the eject button right now, but the only game I have for it is Super Mario World, and then I have a Retro Gen adapter to play some Sega Genesis titles on it. But like that's it. I'm too broke, man. I need.
I mean, there were a lot of other licensed ones. There was a Spider-Man one, the Maximum Carnage. There was a Death of Superman. But I mean, there were some that weren't. There were the Final Fight series of games, and Final Fight 2 or 3. I wouldn't have put the. I guess the problem is the most iconic one is the first one, and that one didn't have co-op on the Super Nintendo. But I would have put one of the Final Fight games on there. Would have been awesome? Battletoads Double Dragon. Unfortunately, rare.
Yep.
But
yeah.
Unfortunately, the thing that's going to make a N64 mini suck. Rare.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. Nintendo's gonna have to overcome a bunch of hurdles if they want a good N64 mini, but I doubt they're gonna get the rare games. I doubt it. I think we all doubt it, but
oh yeah.
That's a whole discussion for another time, if they even announce it. But at this point,
right? The N64 Classic seems hey, this isn't even out yet, so why are we even wasting our time?
Exactly. Exactly. We should be going back. We should be going back to the SNES Mini and asking ourselves, why isn't Shaq Fu on here? I mean, come on, man. That is the most important game of all time, dude. Obviously.
And I have to say, that like if you're going for like a completionist sort of thing, like best Super Nintendo games, then 100% Chrono Trigger would have to be on it.
Yes, it would.
I like I said, I love Chrono Trigger, but I mean, like I said, I would love for it to be on there, but I can't complain with such a great group of JRPGs already. I could see someone maybe arguing Chrono Trigger maybe over Secret of Mana, but number one, like I said, I have a feeling that a lot of that is how much Square Enix wanted for licensing for Chrono Trigger, and that's just me guessing. Number two, I love Secret of Mana, and I'm actually more happy with people getting a chance to play that game, because I feel like less people have played that game than have played the other games in the series. And Enix by itself, because remember, it was Squaresoft and Enix at the time, had a lot of really cool other games that, like ActRaiser would have been cool. Illusion of Gaia is just this kind of amazing, in the vein of Secret of Mana, sort of action RPG. Terra Enigma is like an all-time classic. So there could have been, there definitely could have been more.
Definitely.
But yeah, and the other complaint that I keep hearing, and I get it, are the Donkey Kong Country games, the other two. And that
yes, I've been hearing a lot of people asking like, why isn't 2 on there, or why isn't the entire trilogy on there? It's just like, maybe the first one's more iconic.
It is. I believe the first one sold the best too. I could be wrong.
Even though 2 is it's
mostly known as the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's one people probably have the most nostalgia for. But if you're only going to include, here's the problem. If you're only going to include one Donkey Kong Country game, you include the one where you play as Donkey Kong. So there's no universe where 2 would be put in over the first game, in my opinion. Because people who play the games now know Donkey Kong Country because the Return series is a game series that always stars Donkey Kong. Yeah, it would have been good if 2 came in. I really feel like if this had rounded in at about 25 to 30 total, like 30 plus 1, I think would have been perfect. Getting back to kind of how the NES Mini did it.
Right. I think having a standard, like a set amount of games, would have kind of been cool.
Yeah. I mean, are there any, like, we'll go over the games, I guess, in a second to what you think of them, but are there any games you think that are like, I can't believe they didn't put in, I don't know, Pilot Wings?
For a lot of the games that are in there, I think they are pretty good. As a person who hasn't played a lot of the Super Nintendo, but has still enjoyed some of their back catalog on like the Wii U Virtual Console, or the one lone Super Mario World cart that I own, I think the selection's good. I don't have any titles that are like, why didn't you include them? Maybe Mega Man 7 because I wanted to try that game at some point because that game's like rare. You
could buy the Mega Man Legacy Collection, but not on the Switch.
Right. Yeah.
But that is something you can buy that has Mega Man 7.
True. So I would have to probably get that on my PC. So, but yeah, I was a little, why didn't you include this? But other than that, the list is good. I mean, some of the...
Yeah, you can keep going. You can be like, why wasn't Mega Man X2 there? Why? SimCity was a game that was actually licensed to Nintendo, and Nintendo created their version of SimCity. And I believe it was a launch title, because if not, I got it very close to launch. So it was I had Pilot Wings, F-Zero, Final Fight, Super Mario World, and SimCity, I think, were my first games for the system.
There is one game that I actually did really want on the system.
Yeah.
That is Hong Kong 97.
Oh, I mean, we all did.
I mean,
clearly.
Obviously. Who doesn't like that anime music? I mean, it's awesome.
I'll say this. You have some of the best platformers and some of the best JRPGs ever.
Yes.
Super Ghouls and Ghosts, my apologies, is awesome. Super Castlevania is awesome. Super Mario World clearly is great. Super Metroid is still, it's still probably the Metroidvania title that people, say, hey, we can compare things to Super Metroid. Because it's still that influential and great of a game.
Right, that's the default Metroid game people go to, so... And
you know what? It's almost as exciting as getting Star Fox 2. Getting freaking the real version of Yoshi's Island re-released on something.
I know, instead of getting that GBA port with all the botched music.
Awful, and the camera zooms in. Terrible. So yeah, I mean...
To be told, I actually didn't mind the port. I didn't mind the music, because I like GBA a little bit better, but that's just my personal bias, so let's put it out there.
Yeah, there's... And I know some people will complain about the price, but... Once again, there's so much replayability in these games. Mario Kart is a game you could play forever.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, this is the original Mario Kart that, first came out, and a lot of people remember this one, so they're going to spend a lot of time on it.
I sunk a lot of time in that back in the day. Mm-hmm. And you have games like... Okay, once again, let's go back to those 4 JRPGs. Each one you could easily sink over 40 hours into. Easily. Yeah. So there's a lot you get out of this.
See, the difference between this one and the NES Classic is that the NES Classic was more in bursts, you would just do short plumes of gameplay. This one, you actually take your time, and these are games that you can get enveloped in.
100% agree.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little more expensive. Like I said, I personally, and that's just, I'm selfish. You always want a little bit more. I just wish it had this game or this game. But
I mean, when doesn't someone want
every
more?
game I think is worth it, and that's there's all thriller, no filler, and a second controller because you don't have to look for another one like you had to do with the NES Classic.
That's true. I think they did that with the original Super Nintendo as well.
Wait, how much were the Super Nintendo titles on Virtual Console? Were they $8?
Yeah, they were $8. Yeah.
Plus, I think Earthbound was a premium.
Yeah, because that was rare. I put that in quotations.
But just at $8 for 21 is what, like $168 if you're going to buy all of these on the Wii U.
Yeah.
And each one is worth buying on the Wii U. You know, it's like I said, it's not like, oh man, and I got Solomon's Key thrown in. No, these are all games you would buy.
Now here's the thing, and this is what I'm really curious about. How much hurdles did Nintendo have to go through to get the Super FX games working? Because I know Argonaut Games partially produced the Super FX chip with Nintendo, and they're apparently dead and someone else holds the rights. It's like a complicated situation.
I'd imagine it's something Nintendo was probably working on for years behind the scenes.
Probably.
And was just waiting on the right moment to kind of release it all. It's probably also part of the reason they're able to do Star Fox 2 now.
Yeah, and I think this also means that Super FX games will probably be coming to the Switch Virtual Console.
Oh yeah, I feel like all of these are going to be on the Switch Virtual Console.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, if Star Fox 2 does have multiplayer, it will probably be one of the games that you get through Nintendo's subscription service with free online play.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that would be sick.
The more you say that, the more Nintendo's not gonna do it. Not at all. That's Nintendo's Murphy's Law right there. You say it, they don't do it.
Oh man. So looking at the, I'm looking at the Japanese release now compared to the American release, and here are the changes. Japan does not have Super Castlevania. It does have Legend of the Mystical Ninja. Those are both Konami titles, so I feel like they switched one for the other. It sucks because they're both awesome, but
yeah.
They don't have Earthbound, but they do have Fire Emblem, Mystery of the Emblem, which was never localized. So I get it; they're not going to spend them. Localize something new. I get it. They don't have the Kirby game. What was it, Kirby
Dream Course?
Dream Course. There you go, Kirby Dream Course. But they do have some random soccer game I've never heard of called Super Soccer. So I guess that's their sports game while we get a Kirby game. I'm fine with that one.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I mean, more Kirby is always better. Yeah,
more Kirby is... Yeah, I wish there was even more Kirby on here, because the SNES had a whole bunch of Kirby games.
Definitely.
Yeah, I feel like there was another... Oh, yeah, there is one big one. Well, they also have Penalda Pond, which we don't have. I'm trying to figure out what they don't have, though. Or what we have that they don't have. It's clearly gotta be something. I'll look through it later. It's not a big, I guess, too big of a deal. But the one thing I will say is, I know what they don't have.
Oh,
let me just double check. They do not have Punch Out.
That's actually expected.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah, because boxing is lackluster over in Japan.
Yeah, exactly. But the one thing that I am jealous... I mean, I would have liked to have a Fire Emblem game. The one thing I'm actually jealous about, because there's no real reason for this, is... So here we get Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting. Yeah. Which I'm like, whatever. Maybe they want to sell Ultra Street Fighter, so they want to get like an older version of the game on it. They actually have Super Street Fighter 2, the new Challengers.
Wait.
Which is kind of like the definitive version of Street Fighter 2. Oh. Why? Why does Japan get that?
Yeah, oh my god. Maybe it's just like, I don't know, that seems so weird. Maybe they just had a spare ROM laying around. Hey, look, we're just going to do this last minute.
It could be something as simple as looking at market data and being all like, which version of Street Fighter sold the best here?
Yeah.
In America and Europe was actually not Super Street Fighter 2, the new Challengers, but Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting. So once again, as a nostalgia box, it makes sense. A little disappointing. It is a little disappointing, but honestly, I mean, this thing is going to go towards the casual market, so they're not going to care. A lot of people aren't going to care. So Super Mario World, Super Castlevania 4, Secret of Mana, Mega Man X, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. These are legit some of my favorite games of all time. Final Fantasy 3. These are some of the greatest games. It'll be great too. And what I like about something like this too is, like I said, I actually have all these games and cartridges in my closet somewhere. But this gives me a good excuse to play them again. And it feels, playing something on new hardware makes it feel shiny and new. Right, it's new and fresh, as Splatoon players say. So Yeah, where's my SNES version of Splatoon, Nintendo?
Where's my SNES Smash Brothers? Come on, man.
It was in Melee. You can see that when you looked at the trophy room, there was SNES Smash Brothers.
Maybe we'll just port Super Smash Flash to the Super Nintendo, obviously.
Yeah, they should have just put on some Sega Genesis games. No one will remember. They won't even know what's going on. Sonic? Yeah, I thought Sonic was on the Super Nintendo. Why isn't Sonic on here?
Just say, oh, well, we're collaborating with Retrobit and putting some Sega Genesis titles because, RetroGen adapter, but I don't know. While you're interested in the software part mostly, I'm actually interested on the hardware aspect, and while I personally think that it's going to come with mostly the internals of the NES Mini, which was something similar to like 3DS hardware, I think, but more powerful, and then it came with like a Linux kernel on board. I think that's gonna probably up its chances of getting. Well, you know what? Let's place a bet. How long do you think till it gets hacked?
I don't think that Nintendo is too worried about this getting cracked. And I think they're probably using the same technology and the same setup, same Linux kernel,
yeah,
as the NES Classic.
Pretty much.
So I don't know. A day?
Yeah. No,
it's gonna be really, really quick. What's your over/under?
Pretty much. I do think that it's gonna be really quick. I mean,
yeah, I'll say like a week at most.
Yeah. For Nintendo, it'd be a lot cheaper, and it would be, I think, in their best interest to go with the same hardware. I mean, what benefit would it to basically get a new motherboard and rewrite all of the software? I mean, if you save on the resources, it's going to save money, and you're going to make more money in the long run. I mean,
right. And even though some people will crack it open and mod it, the majority of the people they're targeting aren't. And people that are already that savvy, or we said a lot of them, this is either for nostalgia, for people that don't have the technical know-how, for people that don't
right.
care enough. They're like, this is easier, just buy this and I'll plug it in, I don't have to think about anything.
Right. Again, it's a nostalgia box. That's what it's meant for. It's for plug and play.
Right. So I don't think they're gonna worry about too much of that.
Right.
I'm curious to see when people do start modding it, what sort of things they'll be able to do with it. I mean, because you saw with the NES Classic, people were just adding games to it almost immediately. I wonder if people will be able to get the software from the NES, the user interface and software from the NES Classic, running on this one.
Yeah, I know. That'd be really funny. I could see that happening. I mean, in the NES mini modding scene, they apparently got overclocking working and then RetroArch ported. So it's, yeah, they could probably do some wacky stuff with that. I could see them doing that. Which you could technically say, oh look, I'm playing SNES games on my NES. What is this voodoo magic?
Yeah, I would, and that's interesting. And I feel like that's fine. It's your device, and if you want to do that, that's cool. It's another use that people get out of it. And it's a very cool case. And the default UI, if it's anything like the NES Classic, is going to be cool and shiny and new.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Nintendo is known for their very good UIs, I mean, in recent years. I mean, the Switch is really fast, responsive, but pretty good. The NES Classic was amazing. I love the remix that they did for it. And then I'm hoping they do something similar with the SNES one. They definitely got to.
Yeah, and like, honestly, when I look at all of of how things are usually done for, like if you make a RetroPie and you're looking at kind of the default setups for it, like it's not as user friendly or nice looking. And the reason for that, a lot of it is because, hey, this is supposed to be user friendly. It's supposed to be, once again, plug and play.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the controllers. That's another thing too. I played on other people's NES Classics. I never got my hands on one, but I did get my hands on one. It was a third-party one, but it was nice. One of the controllers, and it's nice having that because honestly, I have if you want to play Virtual Console on your Wii, you have a nice controller now. That's a lot cheaper than the Club Nintendo ones that came out years ago.
Yeah, I actually want to get my hands on one of the Club Nintendo ones, but I seen them appear like $100 on eBay. And I'm just like, hell no, I ain't paying for that much of a controller. And then,
Yep.
And then this is just going to be a nice cheap alternative. I can just import from Europe and have the Super Famicom button scheme, which, hey, it's cool by me.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like the way the Japanese and European versions of the Super Nintendo, Super Famicom look. I have hard nostalgia for for the American one.
That's understandable. I mean, obviously for the North American one, you couldn't put a soda on there and let it spill, just like the NES. So, unlike the Super Famicom, which is prone to that, which is I think one of the biggest urban legends of gaming. But I don't know.
Do you have any other kind of thoughts on this?
Yeah. I have one more. It's actually about the controllers. I was curious why they didn't go with USB, which might seem like weird coming from me. And this, I mean, of course, this is Nintendo. So it's not really surprising they use their old ports, but recently the Switch got a firmware update that allowed you to use the Switch Pro controller wired, and I was wondering maybe they would switch to that to kind of, update it for the times, if you know what I mean.
I mean, I get it, but I think they're just using a lot of old stuff they have. They probably still have a bunch of old Wii connections.
Right.
Might as well use them now.
Yeah, they're probably using old hardware to save money, and makes a lot of sense.
I mean, like, I get it. I get why it can be an issue, but at the same time, because then you can get this and, hey, I can use it on my PC as well, all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll kind of future-proof it so you can use it in future consoles, because, the Switch, you can't hook these up to your Switch. You have to hook them up to your Wii U or your Wii if you're going to use them on a console.
Right.
Yeah, I get that, but like I said, they're probably just trying to get rid of stuff at this point.
Now,
I'm actually wondering if you can maybe put 3 controllers in, because you've kind of fold down the faux, or you detach the faux controller ports, and that's where you plug in the controllers. But Secret of Mana does require 3 players.
Yeah,
it doesn't require 3 players, but it supports 3 players. And there might be room to put 3 in, to be honest with you.
I mean, there could be, but honestly,
it would be odd.
I mean, honestly, knowing...
Yeah, it would be wasted money for 1 game.
Yeah, but knowing Nintendo, I mean, they would probably just gimp it. I mean, that's what they are known for in their virtual console anyways. I mean, Nintendo DS doesn't have, like, wireless connectivity, nor does GBA, which is understandable, but I mean, some games don't have the full features, and they're probably not going to accommodate for 1 game.
I am looking forward. It's so funny, too. I guess, personally, I just have such nostalgia for the system. I've played Link to the Past and Super Metroid so many times, but I'm already looking forward to playing them again on this thing. I'm
gonna be honest. I do want one. The only problem is if it's gonna be an NES Mini 2.0 like debacle, which I think a lot of people are thinking.
I mean, they say they're gonna have more,
right?
And I'm smarter this time. I had opportunities actually to get an NES Classic before, but I just kept thinking, I'm not gonna try that hard. They're eventually gonna make more of them. They eventually stopped.
Right. So I just think it boils down to how people go about it, and if pre-orders actually go out the way they did for the NES Classic Edition, which I have no doubt will be the case.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. But I do think that they're gonna try to ramp up production. They've had time. I mean, part of the reason that they stopped the NES Classic had to have been because they wanted to ramp up production on this one, right?
Probably. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about it more, I think the reason why they're releasing it at the end of September and early October in Japan is so that way they could have more room to reproduce units until the end of 2017, because Nintendo did say that they are going to be done after this year's up. So I think they're releasing it for that reason alone at that time.
That makes sense. Man, I can't wait for the GameCube Classic.
You know what? I actually agree with that. I mean, That's gonna be awesome. And if it has HDMI output, you could, and Melee's on it, you could technically say Melee HD.
That's how we're gonna get Melee HD.
Exactly.
Yeah, for the GameCube Classic.
Yep, you just have to say poof, make your GameCube smaller, have an HDMI output, and voila, you have Melee HD somewhat, maybe.
If they do a Game Boy Classic, do you think they should do Game Boy plus Game Boy Color? Yeah, right?
Yeah, that, or maybe well, I was watching Game Explain's discussion, shout out to them, and I think Colin McIsaac's idea was to have the Game Boy Advance along with the Game Boy Color and original Game Boy kind of combined.
Nah, I mean, I would doubt that.
I don't know. I mean, that kind of seems weird to me, but I mean, if it's just going to be Game Boy and Game Boy Color, it's more likely.
Yeah, you can get more sales by selling it twice.
Right.
But here's the deal: would that be a handheld, or would that be a handheld with USB out to play on the TV, or would it give it a Super Game Boy border whenever you hook it up to the TV?
I was actually thinking there's this HDMI mod that's in progress for the original Game Boy. It's called HD My Boy, and basically it's the original Game Boy, but it's under this like there's like this brick in the middle, and the HDMI output just goes to the TV. So what I could see them doing is they have the normal Game Boy interface, like an actual handheld, and then you can just plug it in via HDMI of like 2 ports on the side. It'll be kind of like both.
Sega Nomad style. I like giving shout outs to the Sega Nomad whenever I can. I'm like Nintendo Switch, Sega Nomad.
Exactly. Sega did it before. Sega does what Nintendo
does what Nintendo don't. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
I would love to see other companies do this. It was funny. We were talking once again on our Discord about like how difficult an N64 Classic is without all of the rare games.
Yeah, I know.
Licensed games.
They're just gonna have like 10 copies of Super Mario 64 with just like certain edits, like those Famicom multi-cards you see at Chinese sweatshops. Super Mario 64.
I mean, there's plenty of first-party games from 1080 to Wave Race.
You have
and here's the thing: all we're seeing is stuff from the Japanese third parties. There were literally no SquareSoft games. Konami's output on the PS1 was much better. I'd rather play Symphony of the Night and Metal Gear Solid than Castlevania 64. Although there was a Mystical Ninja game that was awesome for the N64, and Bomberman 64 was pretty awesome too.
Yeah, there were.
As far as Capcom.
Yeah, there were some decent titles on the N64, but without Rare, it's just gonna be.
Yeah, it feels empty. I'll be honest, an N64 just without GoldenEye. GoldenEye was such an important game, and that one's like impossible. That would be impossible to get, but. Anyways, that's not what this conversation's about. Back to the SNES.
Back to, overall, Spazzy, what do you think of the lineup? I mean, you've probably said it so many times, I can't count.
I've said it I've said it over and over again. It's, I wish there's some games that I feel like are missing, but here's how I know it's good. I don't think I'd replace any of the games there with any of the games that are missing, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like I feel like any of the games don't deserve to be on there, and all of them are fantastic in their own right. I'm excited to play things I haven't played in a while. To bring it over and play Super Punch-Out, to play Yoshi's Island again. It's been a long time since I played the original Star Fox. Because I've never rebought it. I haven't taken the cartridge out in a long time. I haven't played it on emulator. Like, if this will be an excuse, I'm like, hey, what's fun? Star Fox. And Star Fox 2, it's a lost game. Like, how often do you get lost games like officially released?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's something totally unique, and only Nintendo could really do that, because they have a lot of probably prototypes, but I think they also have games that a lot of people want but are that were canceled, just like Star Fox 2, or stuck in Japanese territory.
Yeah, and I know there's people that were kind of upset about things not getting localized too, but I mean, localization and translation takes time and money. A lot of time and money. So we're gonna get, Fire Emblem.
But
or something.
I'm gonna say it, and I don't I'm in the minority here, and I think a lot of people would probably get a little upset at me, but I think Star Fox 2 being released is arguably more important than Mother 3 being localized, which I don't want people hating on me, but honestly, that's how I feel, because this game was unreleased.
Also, Mother 3 is not a Super Nintendo game.
Right.
But you know what? That's clearly when they do the Game Boy Advance Classic. That's why we haven't gotten Mother 3 yet. They're ramping up for the Game Boy Advance Classic.
Exactly. Yeah, but no, I was just saying that I'm comparing the importance, because Star Fox 2 is historically important, and of course Mother 3 doesn't have anything to do with this, but it kind of ties into the whole. This game is severely important, and having Nintendo does this severely increases the worth of this device. I mean, before Star Fox 2, I'm going to be honest, I would agree somewhat with the $80 price point. There's a lot of good titles minus Star Fox 2 on there, but with this game on here, I think it raises the value for a lot of people.
I agree. It's not something you're going to get many places. It's nothing you're going to get legitimate, and you're not going to. And there's no way to play the actual finished version except for whatever Nintendo actually releases. So. Yeah,
definitely. So. You have any final thoughts, or is that you good?
I mean, I guess those kind of are my final thoughts. I love the packaging of it. I love the look of it.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. I mean, I like that the cords are longer. I kind of still wish there was a home button or button combination. Maybe there is. Who knows?
Right.
But it is what it should have been. Like I said, I'm still a little bummed that I feel like they could have squeezed a couple more games in there, but I don't think it lowers the value of the package. I'm
going to have to agree with that. I think the game selection is amazing. I personally, for me, as an outsider looking in, the game selection really decent, really great. I think the overall aesthetic of the packaging, the casing, looks great, and I like the details they're putting into the device. I mean, having that compartment wasn't really needed, but I think it adds that Nintendo touch.
Oh yeah.
And I'm definitely looking forward to it if I can get my hands on one. That's going to be the main question. If.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling good about this. I feel like I'll probably be able to get one. I feel like it's not going to be as bad.
Hopefully.
But we'll see.
Hopefully there's no Chinese knockoffs that are trying to fool people. That's my main worry. You buy an SNES Classic Edition, you open it up, and it's just like a cheap clone console.
I'm surprised actually that I haven't seen any Chinese knockoffs that have recreated the casing from the NES Classic.
Yeah, I know. I was actually expecting some guy to go on eBay and say hey, I got this NES Classic Edition. They open up and it's like a Raspberry Pi, which arguably would be better. So, but I mean,
yeah, half the appeal is the case anyways.
That is true.
All right. Yeah, I think we've talked about this enough.
Yep. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Spazzy, where can they find you at?
Find me on Twitter at 8bit_Spazzy, and as always, you can find me on Source Gaming as well.
Follow him.
Yes.
And follow me too. I am at EpicMartin7 on Twitter. Be sure to follow us on our social media pages that we said earlier. We hope you guys enjoyed the video. We have a Patreon. Support us on that. That's how we get to E3. Spazzy just recently got back from E3. We have videos on that as well. So check them out. And we hope to see you in the next video.
All right. Bye, guys.